pretty much like Beth. I don't really like to be up here unless the Holy Spirit just like, births something inside of me that it's easy to step up and give that word. But when you're thinking about it ahead of time and preparing for it, it's a little bit more intimidating. But anyway, there's just so many aspects that I experienced at the ramp this time, and it's almost hard really for me to know where to start. I do want to say that one of the things I cherished was the opportunity to get off away with some of my sisters. And Bethy and I have known each other for so long, so many years. We're just, we're family. But it'd been so long since I got to really sit down just beside her and the two of us talk and share and shed tears together and share our hopes and dreams and with the others as well. But I valued that time with them. And it's so good to connect with your family, with your brothers and sisters and God in just a different way. To get off the way where you don't have the next day at work going through your head or whatever. But I noticed as I was there, different times throughout the different services that we had. It's those times when God brings things out that you've not even shared with anybody. And He's so directly speaking to you. It's like He's just calling you out, and it's so personal. Yes. Hundreds of women in that room, plus the whole platform filled and everything, and God is just like, say, Della, like she said, what about you, Beth? And I'm thankful that I did hear the voice of God in different aspects of my life while we were there. And I think one of the things that ministered to me the most that I have just carried with me and I can't get away from is there was a song that they sang called I Knew You Would Come, and it's based off the story of Lazarus. And Karen Wheaton had also talked about in one of her, when she talked about her journey with, believing for her daughter to come back and for her daughter and son-in-law's marriage to be restored. She had shared also about the Shunammite woman, and or she may not have been talking about that in particular, but she had shared about the Shunammite woman. Actually, two speakers did. And they talked about how that when she had built this house for the prophet, and he says, ask her what she wants, and she's like, I don't need anything, She had already buried. And you tell me that back in those days, every woman wanted a child. And she said, I don't need anything, I don't want anything. She had already buried it. And whether she had prayed and asked God for a child or not, I would have to believe that she had. She was a godly woman. She was a spiritual woman. She connected with, the prophet and his word. But somewhere along the way, she just said, it's okay, God. I love you anyway, and I'll serve you anyway. And she had buried that because when he said to her, and Gehazi says, what is it that she wants? Well, she doesn't have a son. She doesn't have an heir. And so when the man of God tells her, you're going to have a child, she's like, don't do that to me, basically is what she was saying. Don't mess with my mind, don't mess with my heart. And then this song that they sing, and it's an awesome song if you can look it up, based on the story of Lazarus, and they talked about how that Martha, must have been in her caring for her brother those final days. She must have continuously thought, I know he's going to come, I know he's going to come. And yet, they buried their brother. They even sent for God. And but when he showed up, she even went out to the gate. She didn't even wait for him to come all the way in. And she did say, if you'd been here, he wouldn't have died. But she said, but even now, I know that God will do whatever you ask of him. And then it's almost like through the continuance of that story and their conversation, the two of them, like she was wavering and or not understanding fully what God was saying. But God had already seen that glimmer of hope. in her. So even though she was struggling to really maybe believe fully or to understand what God was going to do, that he had already seen a little bit of hope in her. And I think one of the biggest things that I got was not to let the enemy rob you of your hope. Because, you know, we hear a lot about faith and about how it's impossible to please God without faith. But without hope, faith has no purpose. If you don't allow yourself. Because it's the substance of things that we hope for.
That's right.
The things that we will open up our hearts again and say, you know, raise that hope back up in me. And even when it seems like it's gone and it's over, you know, her hope was in a tomb. It was already dead. And to our natural way of thinking, it's too late. It's, you know, if you've been here, you know, it was already in the tomb. So even if you have buried hopes and dreams that you've had for many years, and maybe you've closed the door on them because you can't bear any more disappointment, we can only believe. We just believe in it. You know, like I said, she was struggling, and I think of the man, and I don't remember the exact text or setting, but the man that had come to God, and when he said, Lord, I believe, one translation says, through his tears, when God said, do you believe? One translation says, through his tears, he said, God, believe, help my unbelief. But these people got their miracles. Do you see how little? You know, we talk about that mustard seed of faith, but these stories, when you really think about them, and you really dissect them, they really put it, they really make it something that you can grab hold of. It can be the littlest amount of faith. It could be less than a grain of a mustard seed, and you can still get your miracle because it's not about us.
Yes.
It's about a very big God, and I think sometimes we just have to get out of our normal routine, mundane, or not that our services are mundane, I don't mean that, because they're not, but what we are accustomed to. Get out of the way, and then God kind of calls us out and says, okay, I've got some things that I've been wanting to share with you, and I needed to isolate you, I needed to get you in a different setting.
Right.
And I tell you, there were things I felt challenged in my spirit. Believe again.
Yes.
And I believe now that I have, you know, so many of us share it. I know a lot of these same feelings on this subject, and I know that I have things that I will partner with some women. I'll say, believe with me.
Amen.
And we'll speak those things that are not as though they were. I'm so thankful for the experience.